Well, it's 2025 and I'm sitting here with a brand new Roland analog drum machine. 40 years after the last TR-1000 rolled off the production lines, it's back. Kind of. In true Roland form, they've not settled for just firing up the old production lines. They've gone about attempting to create the best sounding and most capable TR drum machine of all time. Before we get stuck into what this beast is capable of, I reckon you need to hear it. So here's a handful of beats I came up with over the weekend. As you probably picked up in those jams, there's a lot more going on in this thing than just the old analog voices. In fact, I'd say it's more an evolution of the TR-8S than a recreation of the old machines. But let's get the big analog headline out of the way though. TR-1000 features all the analog voices of the 808 and the 909. So your big thumping kick drums, your sizzling hats and your whip crack snares, they're all in here in their true analog form. In fact, you can actually peek through the vents in the bottom of the unit and see that there's old school through-hole components in there. It's kind of cool. But these voices aren't actually one-to-one recreations of the originals. They've expanded on them. You've got extended decay times, extended pitch ranges, and that kind of thing. In fact, the 808 bassline will just oscillate if you increase the decay time enough. And you can even layer some of these tracks together. So if you've ever dreamed of layering an analog 808 with an analog 909 kick, that's a reality on the TR-1000. And the analog revival doesn't end there. We've actually got a stereo multi-mode filter on the output with a really nice sounding drive on it. This design's been taken from one of their old Jupiter synths as well. So Roland really flexing their legacy there, and I'm here for it. But let's be real here for a sec. Behringer have had their clone units of the 808, 909, and even 606 out for quite some time now, and you can pick them up for a fraction of the cost of the TR-1000. So what do we get for all that extra coin? Well, it's quite a list, so let's get into it. So the TR-1000 has 10 tracks, and the first 4 of these tracks are dual layer tracks. With these 2 layers, we can mix and match different sound types to our heart's content. What's even cooler is we can sequence these 2 layers individually by holding the different layer buttons. On each of these tracks, we've got a number of different sound engines, or generators as Roland calls them, to choose from. We've got the analog voices that we've already talked about. We've also got all of Roland's ACB models. So that gives you all Roland's like premium digital models of all their classic drum machines. That's the 606, the CR78, the 707, the 727, all of them. They're all in there. We also have all those FM percussion synths that we saw with the TR-8S. They're all in here. We've also got loads of PCM samples and a big sample library and a user sample library. And because I know we'll get these questions, let's be really, really clear. You can sample with this machine. You can upload your own samples. You can auto slice by transient or time division, and you can time stretch. And you can have really long samples play as well, like up to 10 minutes plus, I believe. So you can potentially have an entire backing track or like a vocal track playing while you're making beats alongside it. Now, each of our 10 tracks follows this signal chain of these 4 buttons along the bottom here. You've got Gen, which is our sound engines, our generators that we were just talking about. Then we've got our filter and modulation section, amplifier and compressor section, and our effects and mixer section. Within the filter section, we have a multi-mode filter, digital multi-mode filter, or an equalizer, and an envelope and a modulation section where you can assign an LFO to just about anything you like on that track. Over to the amp section where there's an envelope as well and a load of other parameters you can tweak to your liking. And underneath it is a compressor as well. 2 different models of compressor we can choose from there. Then lastly, we have our effects and mixer section. You can choose from a pretty good selection of effects to apply to your track, and every single track can have its own effect on it, which is pretty awesome. In the mixer screen, you'll find things like routing options, panning, extra gain options, and delay and reverb send. Looking at our hands-on control, as you can see, our first 4 tracks have 6 knobs and the rest of the tracks have 3 knobs. Now, all of these are freely assignable and they can have multiple assignments as well. So if you want to, say, tweak the decay time and the filter at the same time, that's a possibility. And additionally, we have our 6 knobs up here that will always control the parameters displayed on the screen. Now, the sequencer will be familiar to anyone who's used any kind of TR step sequencer. You got your 16 steps along the bottom here, quick mutes, and much like the TR-8S, we've got our variation buttons over here, sliders, and all the rest. But compared to the TR-8S, we've had a load of new updates. We've got micro timing, we've got probability per step, we've got cycle input parameters per step, we've got shuffle per track, we've got a fleshed out fill function, we've got track directions and different play modes as well. There's heaps to dig into here. Then we've got this really cool snapshot feature that works in conjunction with the motion sequencer as well. So you can save up to 16 states of your instrument. And when I say states, I mean positions of the knobs. So say for snapshot 1, you set the knobs on your bass drum a certain way. Snapshot 2, they're set differently. Snapshot 3, they're set differently. And then you can actually sequence between those 3 different snapshots. So you can end up with a really dynamic sound just on that one single track. So to give you an example of how you might use that feature, you could tune one of these tracks chromatically or within a scale across those 16 snapshots and then create melodies. Also down here in the play modes is our slice mode. So you can play back all the slices within your sample when you're in this mode and sequence that live if you like. You can also just hold down the step when you're in the TR recording mode and then choose the slice that you want to play back. So that's a really nice inclusion because it means you don't have to utilize the snapshot feature or the motion sequencer to choose which slice you're playing back. So it frees that up for other mischief. Now, for those of you coming from the TR-8S, you'll be familiar with the autofill function on that. Well, that's been fleshed out in a big way on the TR-1000. So now it allows you to create 4 different fills and play them back at an interval of your choosing or manually with the button here. What's really cool is they've actually made it so you can just use one of the variations as a fill as well. So say after 16 bars, I wanted to play variation E. But if you prefer something a bit more hands-on and performance-orientated, Roland have got you covered as well. There's a step loop function. So press the step loop button, let's hit go, press a couple of buttons or a few buttons, and it will loop those steps. Now, speaking of performance features, this is one of my favorite features on the TR-1000, the morph slider. And yeah, this is probably going to get the Electron fans riled up because it is very similar to the crossfader on the Octatrack. But essentially, you can assign a state of the machine to the left side and have your original state to the right side. So say you want to have your high pass filter up and the delay and reverb turned up when you have this slider to the left. So you just go into the edit mode, tweak those knobs, and then it will save that. And you can freely modulate those few parameters all at once with a quick slide. It's a really, really cool performance feature. Oh, another thing that always gets asked about on drum machine and sequencer demos is song mode, right? Well, there is a song mode. It's up here in the top left. And if you go into the edit screen, you can tell it what pattern you want to play and how many times you want to play it. And then it goes on to the next session, so on and so forth. So yeah, there's a song mode. Checking out the effects section along the top, we've got our accent track, so we can dial in some accents wherever we like them. We've got our master delay and reverb, and you've got a handful of different delays and reverbs within the kit options that we can choose from. There's a really nice sounding tape echo in there that I'm a big fan of. And then we've got a master multi-effect engine as well. And there's some really creative effects in here, like the beloved scatter effect from the TR-8. I'm a big fan of that as well. Then there's DJ Looper from the 404, but then there's more utility kind of effects as well. There's an 1176 compressor emulation that sounds really surprisingly good. Then last, of course, we have our beautiful sounding analog multi-mode filter with the drive. This machine has a stereo external input on the back, and you can control your level with the knob here. And what's great about this is not only can you use it for sampling, but you can actually just run external instruments through it. You might have seen in the intro jams, I had my Machine Plus hooked up. Well, that was just hooked up to the external input, and I was utilizing the inbuilt sidechain function, so it was ducking around the bass drum. So it makes a great hub for a live performance. Spinning this thing around and having a look at the back, you can see connections wise, this thing is absolutely decked out. We have individual analog outputs for every single instrument. We've also got multi-track audio over USB. And we've got some CV inputs and outputs as well. And I haven't mentioned yet, this thing actually has a trigger sequencer within the crash and ride cymbal tracks. Additionally, we have 3 MIDI ports, an input, an output, and a through. And these can actually be set to DIN sync format, which is like the old school format a lot of the old Roland drum machines used. So if you've got a classic Roland drum machine that uses DIN sync, you can hook this up to the TR-1000, no worries. Now, the last thing I want to shout out on the TR-1000 is to do with the headphones port, which is on the front of the unit, but that's not what I want to shout out. So there's actually a Q-Mix function on this machine, much like a DJ mixer, and that allows you to set tracks to Q while you're working on them. So they only come out the headphone output, and then release them from the queue when you're finished working on them, and they'll come out the master output. So this is an awesome feature for performing live and a pretty unusual feature for a drum machine. Now, aesthetically, this machine is big and heavy. Looks to be like a powder-coated aluminium top, all metal enclosure. The sliders feel really good. The keys along the bottom, our TR steps, they're like mechanical keys that sort of harken back to the old 909 keys. The knobs feel really good, the sliders feel really good. It just feels sturdy AF in general. I will say that although the black on grey aesthetic looks really sleek and kind of reminds me of the T-1000 Terminator, which I have to assume is a point of reference, it is a little bit hard to read in low light. But with a machine like this, it just becomes muscle memory anyway. So yeah, the more I jammed on it, the less I was bothered by it. Right, so I've gotten to the bottom of my list of things that I want to talk about on the TR-1000, and I think it's fair to say that this is the most advanced TR drum machine that Roland's ever built. Is it worth the price point? Well, that's your call. Pushing all that aside and speaking personally, this machine is a joy to use. This slider and knob laden interface has been a winner since they brought it out with the TR-8, which is a unit that I used to perform live with a decade ago. The immediacy of the sequencing and performing with it, like the quick mutes, the sequencing, the motion sequencer, the morph function, the analog filters, the effects, like it all comes together in this really beautiful way to sort of give you a connection between human and machine. It becomes a viable instrument. And it's so easy to find yourself in a flow state with it. With all the new features they've jammed into it, of course there's a learning curve, but the core feature set and the sound is so fast and sounds so good. So it's well worth the time spent. So that's all I've got for today. Thanks for tuning in. As always, let us know what you think in the comments, and if you've got any questions, I'll do my best to answer. These will be on demo in all of our stores around Australia very shortly, so pop into your local store DJ to come and check it out. And yeah, that's it for today. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Mike. I'll see you in the next one.